third installment of Final Fantasy arrived in 1990, and suffered the same fate as Final Fantasy II in regards to Square's wacky US releases. Only, this time it was pretty much left and forgotten. No joke, just in the early 2000s, the PlayStation released Final Fantasy Origins, which had 1 and 2. Then they had Chronicles with Final Fantasy IV, and Chrono Trigger. They skipped 3, and they even try to hide it. They literally listed the series as 1, 2, Chrono Trigger 4. I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Like, why did they not want us to play it? I get that the Final Fantasy series were slow on the US side because supposedly RPGs weren't selling well, but you'd think Final Fantasy VII being such a smash hit would have changed their minds. Just give me the full series already, damn it. Oh well, I guess I can always try playing it in Japanese. Let's see here, once upon a time, the whole world was covered in blue. Yeah, and there was a blue house with a blue little window and a blue Corvette, and everything is blue for him and himself and blah blah blah. Oh, I get to name my characters, huh? Well, this symbol looks cool. That one kind of looks like a butt. That's definitely just a 3. Nah, fuck it. This guy's a black dot. Okay, so these 4 Trojans fall into a giant's bowels. Yeah, in order to help with his digestion problem. He's been eating too many McNuggets, you see. Call blimey, this beast has got flim-flam all up in its gutty works, one of them probably said there. But it turns out that the giant accidentally swallowed his girlfriend's nose piercing, and this half-digested gusher wants a piece. And then, I guess I beat the game. Holy shit, now I could read Japanese! Okay, they did eventually release the actual Final Fantasy III to the US. In 2006? 16 years, Square? It took you 16 years to release this game? I mean, at that point, who even gives a damn about the third installment of the series? We were already up to number 12 by that point. And yes, I know fan translations are available of the original, but I would have no way of knowing how faithful the translation is. Would I be commenting on the actual writing, or what some fans' interpretation is of it? Anyway, it came out on the Nintendo DS, but eventually it released for PC, so no excuse not to play it now. Let's see what the hell is going on with this game. Right off the bat, things are immediately different, as now it's just one dude falling into a cavern, and all he wants to do is find his way out. Yeah, I guess being swallowed alive by a giant was just too hot for Squaresoft. And I guess this bastard's name is Luneth. Yeah, sure, we'll stick with that. Still not as cool as Black Dot. Another notable change for this fancy schmancy 3D version is the ability to zoom in. Ooh. It's mostly used to find hidden items and switches, but honestly I've had enough RPG experience under my belt that I just click on everything as I go anyway. And while I'm going on about random ass changes, it turns out you can't change the color of the menus. Now that's just downright criminal. Anyway, we fight off a giant turtle guarding a crystal, and the crystal starts talking about how Luneth is the chosen one, and it's his destiny to bring balance to the Force, and is humanity's last hope, yada yada yada. And we're still a ways away from Final Fantasy's more complex themes and stories. After all that, Luneth is teleported out of the cave, and ready to start solving every one of the world's problems, with violence. But first, we need to pick up our second party member, Ark, who's apparently such a dink that we first see him getting picked on by a bunch of little kids. Yep, that's literally how he's introduced, before being asked to name him. To prove himself, Ark runs off to Kazis, a town whose inhabitants have been cursed by a djinn and turned into ghosts. Or gingerbread cookie cutters. One of the inhabitants is a guy named Sid, who tells us where to find his airship hidden in the middle of the desert. It's weird how airships always seem to end up in the desert. Also, yeah, we have an airship already, along with a stowaway named Refia, who's the blacksmith's apprentice. Refia doesn't want to be a blacksmith's apprentice anymore, though, and ran away to hopefully join an RPG adventure. Well, fancy that. In order to break the djinn's curse, the heroes need to banish him in a mithril ring. But the only one around belongs to the princess of Suzuni Castle. So, we'll fly over there, I guess, because there's really nowhere else to go. But, of course, the princess already ran off to the sealed cave to take on the djinn herself, and we have to go help her. But not before the King of Suzuni offers us our last party member, Angus, and a hint about getting through the dungeon. Search for the skeleton. Key. Yeah, he means to interact with the skeleton here to uncover a hidden passage. Why the hell he needed to be so cryptic about it is beyond me. Trying to save your daughter, you'd think you'd want to be more specific with the help you give. Fortunately, we find Princess Sarah and oh damn, that does not seem like the proper dungeon crawling attire. Can poke an eye out with those warlocks. This introduces a pretty unique mechanic to Final Fantasy III. Where you always have the same 4 characters throughout the game, but every once in a while you get an extra 5th character who follows you around and occasionally helps you in battle. Definitely a step up from Final Fantasy II's random 4th party member. God, Gordon was worthless. So now it's a showdown against the Djinn. And you know what they say, phenomenal cosmic power, itty bitty living space. After the fight, the heroes get teleported back to the Crystal Chamber, leaving Princess Sarah behind in the depths of a monster-infested cave. You just couldn't wait to drop more exposition, could you? So our 4 heroes are now the Warriors of Light, destined to prevent darkness from consuming the world. More importantly though, being the Warriors of Light means that crystals give us jobs. Final Fantasy III was the first in the series to introduce the job system, where you can swap character classes, as later seen in Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy Tactics, and Final Fantasy X too. I've always liked the job system because it adds a sense of strategy, as you have to try to balance each person's abilities to make the most efficient team. That, and it's fun seeing what new jobs and abilities you're gonna get as you continue on. To start, Ark is gonna be the White Mage, for obvious reasons. Refia will be a Pimpin' Red Mage for damage dealing and backup healing, Ingus will be a warrior to tank damage, and finally, Luneth will be a monk, because they hit like a frickin' truck. You know, I don't mind the design of this version of the game, but why are all the characters so hippie? They're all like pear-shaped, it's weird. With the Curse of Kazis finally broken and our heroes ready to tear shit up, we can talk to Cid again. Who says in order to move on to the next town, we need to equip the airship with a mithril ram? Wait, a ram? Within the time it took to defeat just one boss, we both obtained an airship and managed to blow it up. Well played, Final Fantasy. Well played. After miraculously surviving that trip, we drop Cid off with the missus in the next town. Ooh, and there's a dancer! Well, now I have a boner. Here we also learn of some dude named Desh disappearing to a place called Dragon's Peak, which, surprise surprise, has a dragon on top of it. The dragon captures the heroes and drops them in its nest, where Desh also happens to be. The dragon comes back and Desh suggests that the heroes just run. Yeah, I'm gonna take that advice, considering the dragon is fucking Bahamut. I don't think we can take him at level 10, just a hunch. So we get Desh's story, and how he lost his memory and can only remember his name. And I guess thought wandering to a place called Dragon's Peak was a good idea. He offers to tag along with the party and gives us the mini spell, which is normally just one of those status effect spells I never bother to use in these games, but in this game it serves a special purpose, as casting it on your own party allows you to enter certain areas of the map, like our next stop, which is this village full of funky gnome dudes. It's actually a pretty neat way to continue the adventure. Gives the game a Alice in Wonderland-like vibe. You know, if every time Alice turned small, she had to lob fireballs at hedgehogs and leprechauns. Past the gnome village, you have to go through a monster-infested tunnel while still mini, which means physical damage of any form does fuck all, and everyone in your party takes hits a lot harder. So, to survive, you have to rely solely on your magic users while they use up all their spell charges. Oh, yeah, there's still no magic points or ethers. Well, I guess I fucked up when I decided to give only one of my characters a class that uses offensive magic. Probably only survived this damn tunnel thanks to Desh. It gets even better though, because after that passage you have to endure an entire dungeon like this. Boss fight and all. See, the Vikings here are having trouble with a sea serpent called the Nepto Dragon. In order to calm the beast, you have to find the missing eye to the dragon statue, hence the mini-only dungeon. Yeah, screw this. I bet the Nepto Dragon isn't that hard. The Vikings even loaned me the Enterprise. Oh! Fine, I'll do your stupid dungeon. Whose boss is a giant rat? Because of course it is. Blowing up airships, running away from dragons, now getting our asses handed to us by a rat. After returning the eye to the statue, the dragon gives us the Fang of Water. Just what I always wanted. With the dragon out of the way and a new ship, we're free to explore the ocean and most of the world map. Which means aimless wandering. I did find some chocobos though. I also found the village of the ancients, where one dude mentions how long ago the light threatened to engulf the world and 4 heroes of darkness had to step in to stop it. The hell? I want to play that game! You mean to tell me that there was a point in time where the light was being way too powerful, so 4 evil heroes had to do pretty much what we're doing to stop it? Man, but wouldn't that make the game so much more interesting if our intentions were good, but technically we were working on the behalf of evil? Whatever. Next up is the Tower of Owen, which is actually helping keep the entire world afloat and is being fucked with by Medusa. Dash recognizes the place and remembers that he was meant to be the guardian of the tower, and that it's his job to fix it. Somehow, Dash figures this must be done by jumping into lava. Yeah, no shit, it's fucking lava! You will die before you even step foot in it! It's lava!
Professor! Lava! Hot!
Well, Dash is dead, but I guess he somehow fixed the tower because the rest of us aren't dead, and this maelstrom disappeared, allowing us to travel to the Dwarven Hollows. And guess what? They need us to solve a problem too. I know, right? Some thief guy named Gutsgo took off with one of the dwarves' Horn of Ice. Well, whatever that is. Is it at all related to the Fang of Water? Doesn't matter, I guess, because I beat him. Yeah, he vanished. Oh well. Probably don't need to worry about that random shadow that's now following us. Oh look, it was a trick. Now that Gutsgo has both Horns of Ice, he's run off to get the power of the Fire Crystal, which turns him into a goofy dragon. Well, we'll put a stop to... So in this game, bosses take 2 actions per turn, their way of making bosses challenging without just giving them beefed up stats and leaving it at that. Which does make things a little more chaotic, but not unbearably so. That is, unless the boss has a fuck all y'all attack that's now twice as likely to show up. I mean, damn, that's a lot of damage. Am I missing something? Do I need to equip everyone with ice armor? Does that even work? Okay, sure didn't seem like it. Well, you know what this means. Ugh, finally. And hey, the Fire Crystal gives new jobs. Lunith will now be a ranger. It's basically like a monk, only with a bow, and arrows, and not at all like a monk. Ingus will now be a knight to continue his tanking duties, with the added bonus of being able to use white magic and automatically defending people with low HP. Ark gets to be a scholar now, because they seem pretty damn worthless, which means it's perfect for him. They literally use books for weapons, what is up with that? And Refia gets to be a geomancer, which is overpowered as hell. You basically spend no magic points to unleash a random spell relevant to the surrounding elements, and most of the time it does twice the damage any of the other characters are capable of dealing. Again, basically for free. It's nuts. Probably the happiest dying guy in the world shows up to tell the heroes that his village has been attacked. It'll have to wait though, because we just got a hot tip that there's another village tucked away on the map called Gaisal, where there's a shop that sells magic keys, which is dumb because that's what we just got as a reward for helping the dwarves. Even dumber though is magic keys are used to open locked doors anywhere in the game. You know what else can do that? Being a thief, which I can do for free. The magic keys are pretty much worthless. Still gonna buy a bunch though. I've got money to burn. Gaisal is also the home of Gaisal Greens, an item that lets you summon fat chocobos. Yay? Fat chocobos allow you to store items inside them to save for a later time, and I've yet to figure out the point. I have unlimited inventory space, and if there's an item I don't want anymore, I'll just sell it. Why would I ever use a fat chocobo? Seriously, someone help me out here. Back at Tokul, the gang gets ambushed and locked up in Castle Hein, which has been built into a giant tree. Hein was the advisor of the king of Argus, but he betrayed the king and brainwashed his soldiers, and now we have to defeat him. No biggie, I'm still using a geomancer and vaporizing everything in sight, like Headless Hitler Horseman Lady. That's a weird one. There's a lot of weird looking monsters in this game, like that thing, and that. Anyway, the fight with Hein is pretty interesting, as for one, he looks like the Phantom of the Opera, and second, he periodically changes what element he's weak to, which is where the Scholar comes in, as he can use the scan spell for free. So the Phantom is defeated, and the heroes talk to the giant tree they're just crawling around in, who, surprisingly, doesn't tell us to find Princess Zelda and protect the Triforce from the man from the desert. But seriously, like, how weird of a coincidence is that? Ocarina of Time was 8 years after Final Fantasy III, and there's a giant talking tree surrounded by fairies. Even funnier, in Final Fantasy I, there's a grave in the elf town labeled Link. It's like the Zelda franchise was almost a decade late in returning the favor and referencing the Final Fantasy series. Anyway, the Deku tree gives us the Fang of Wind. Fang of Water, Fang of Wind. I guess we're collecting fangs for some reason. With the people of Argus free, we can now visit their castle and get an upgrade that turns the Enterprise into an airship. Engage! Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to mention the Mognet. Moogles were first introduced in Final Fantasy III, but were only seen in one specific area. So for the DS release, they added a Moogle in each town that lets you check mail from characters in the game, and also people you're friends with who also happen to have a DS, Final Fantasy III, and nothing better to do with their lives. A lot of the special unlocks in this game had to do with sending and receiving mail through Mognet. Fortunately, in the PC version, they realized that that shit was stupid, and now it only requires you to receive mail from in-game characters based on how much of the bestiary you've unlocked. So at this point in the game, I got a letter from the village elder telling me that some kids have wandered into caves and are in serious trouble. Going and saving the kids from bombs, who, again, I erased from existence with a geomancer spell, gives me the Onion Knight job. Which sucks. Another change they made in this remake is, instead of calling the jobless class you start off with the Onion Knight, it's called a Freelancer. I guess so they can make the Onion Knight a special class that's virtually a joke. You know how when a character switches jobs they suffer a penalty for the first few fights before they adapt to their new position? Well, the Onion Knight is apparently like that until your characters are past level 92. You're allowed to equip any weapon and armor, and can use almost any spell, but your stats plummet drastically until you grind your ass off. And by that point you can one-shot anything in the game anyway. Not to mention they look really dumb. Davis Seaworth would be so disappointed. Sid drops an exposition bomb and claims that he actually knew the four heroes when they were little, and that they were actually, you guessed it, orphans, all thanks to an airship explosion. Damn it, Sid, you were just trying to finish the job, weren't you? It gets even crazier though, as it turns out he and the four heroes came from a much larger world below the one they are currently standing on. This continent being just a floating landmass hovering above the real world. Yeah, I thought the map seemed kinda small. With the new airship upgrade, the heroes are free to travel to the larger world below, that's been frozen in time in a cloud of darkness. One of the only places we're allowed to go is a wrecked ship where this chick named Arya needs healing with an elixir. It's a good thing we haven't used all of them. They're kind of hard to come by. After she recovers, she takes us to the water crystal, where, of course, we encounter another boss. Oh damn, Luneth is pissed. So pissed, in fact, that he manages to riddle the Kraken with arrows, despite being blind. That's pretty hardcore. Doesn't save Arya from dying, though. And despite knowing her for a whole 10 minutes, we still get a soppy death scene. Boy, do I just not care. Besides, there's new jobs to mess around with. Ark is now a bard, which, despite what you may think, is actually a useful class. He can only use one ability, depending on what harp he has equipped, but the Medura harp casts Protect on everybody, and you better believe I'm using that shit. Ingus is now a Viking, basically a heavy hitter class, and Refia is now a Dragoon. Probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy classes. I don't know, they just look so cool. And I've always enjoyed their jump ability, which makes them invulnerable until they attack. Restoring the water crystal's power somehow returns the surface world back to normal, and the heroes awaken in a town, only to find out that their airship has been locked up by some dick named Goldor. Now I want answers here, and the first one being, how the hell did he lock up an airship? What, did he use some sort of giant chain? Oh. Well, guess what? Goldor's manor is protected by a bottomless swamp, and the only way to cross it is with levy grass shoes, but those can only be found in a sewer. Oh yeah, this is Final Fantasy, alright. Getting a thing so I can go get another thing. But then I run into these child molesters, who claim to be the real warriors of light. And then I save them from frogs, and they change their minds and help me get the levy grass shoes. So why did I bother bringing the old guys up? Well, believe it or not, it actually becomes relevant later on. Yeah. We get to Goldor's mansion, and I actually kind of like this design. Turns out Goldor's the man with the Midas touch. I mean, he's not such a bad guy. He just locked up our airship because he was afraid someone would steal his treasure. Kind of sad, really, since, that's what we end up doing. Oh well, I guess that's it for Mr. Goldor. Not gonna lie, it's exciting to have the Enterprise back to explore the new map to my heart's content. God damn it. This is the Kingdom of Sarania, which is in the middle of a civil war, thanks to the king suddenly going batshit insane. In the pub, we find Alice, who happens to be the king's son? Sorry, that's just some pretty weird getup. What exactly was happening before I burst onto the scene here? Alice's father, King Gorn, threw him out of the castle after going crazy. But I guess he changed his mind, as we're now allowed into the castle. Probably because he realized his son was running around town in pantyhose and a dog collar. No, actually, it's so he can murder him in his sleep. Turns out it was all the work of Gigameth. Gigameth was the advisor of the king, but betrayed and brainwashed him, and now we have to defeat him. I can't help but feel that we've heard all this before. That's 2 for 3 with the evil advisors. Actually, I don't think King Suzuni had an advisor. Probably killed him preemptively just to be safe. The king defies Gigameth's brainwashing and kills himself instead. Either way, we have a giant turkey to fight. Oh, and by the way, having a Dragoon is essential in this fight. Holy crap, that was a close one. Alice takes his father's place on the throne, and for saving yet another kingdom, we get a super speedy airship called the Nautilus, which allows us to reach Doga's manor. Doga is like a super wizard, who was taught by some ultra super wizard named Noah. After he died, Noah gave Doga the power of magic. Another disciple named Une was given the world of dream, and the third disciple, Zonde, was given mortality. Yeah, guess which one wasn't happy about their gift. Zonde, Doga explains, is the one attempting to drown the world in darkness, and it's our job to stop him. So we're more than halfway through this game, and we're just now being told about a villain who needs to be stopped. So we get yet another airship upgrade that lets us take the Nautilus underwater. Yeah, I was wondering why an airship was called the Nautilus. Exploring underwater is pretty neat. and doing so lets us visit Doga's village, where you can buy pretty much any spell, including summons. Another Final Fantasy first. Finally, getting the Evoker class actually makes sense. I don't typically use summons a lot in Final Fantasy, but for this game, I'll make an exception. The gang's all here. Shiva, Ifrit, Rama, Titan. Strangely, in this game, each summon has different abilities they can do that are selected at random, so you don't always get a guaranteed ass-kicking like in the other games. Rama will sometimes paralyze enemies. Shiva, I don't even know what her alternate attack does. And now Ifrit can either deal a ton of damage, or heal your party basically to full. So of all the summons, it's Ifrit who can heal. Well, Ark is my designated healer, so I guess it's now his time to shine. Next up is the Temple of Time, where we get a magical ocarina, or loot, my bad, and use that to wake up Une from the world of Dream.
Now do classical gas.
With her help, we get the Fang of Fire, and yet another airship called the Invincible, which basically has its own town inside, including shops, beds, Mognet, and the worthless fat chocobo. It can also hop over small mountains, meaning we now have every means of transportation in this game. Which also means we're going summon hunting. Odin is chilling underneath Sarania. Huh, just noticed this dungeon has dead rats on the floor. That's a nice touch. It's during the fight with him that I realize having all my healing rely on Ifrit was a bad idea. Come on, healing light. Healing light. Ah, hellfire. Leviathan is in a lake on the floating continent, and thanks to Odin deciding to cast Reflect on everybody, I accidentally ended up healing him at one point. Great going, team. Bahamut's Den is also on the floating continent, and once again, Refia the Dragoon is MVP, thanks to the jump ability. Looks like that's all of them. Hey, remember those random fangs I was getting? Yeah, I've got one for fire, wind, and water, so I guess I still need the Fang of Earth. Still don't know why. But the Fang of Earth is tucked away in the Cave of Shadows, which has some Dark Knights lurking about it, one of which gives us a fancy Dark Knight sword before dying. You're right, dead guy. I should try the Dark Knight job. Let's turn Ingus all emo. Yeah, just try to make him clean his room now, Mom. With the 4 elemental fangs in our possession, Doga and Une call on us so we can beat the shit out of them. I guess we need their power to unlock the final dungeon, a tower made of crystal. The heroes are all like, no, we can't fight you, we're friends. But Doga and Une are all like, shut up and dance! They're a pretty easy fight. Though I don't understand why this was entirely necessary. Couldn't they just off themselves? Save us the trouble? Did they really need to hit back so hard? We're trying to save the world for them after all. I'm just imagining this scenario where these great wizards accidentally kill humanity's only hope. Wouldn't they feel dumb? Whatever. We finally get to see what the 4 fangs were used for. Destroying giant statues on the overworld map. Couldn't be more obtuse. To get to the Crystal Tower, we have to go through the Ancient Maze, which holds the final crystal and group of jobs, most of which are upgraded versions of the first batch of jobs we got. Lunith the Monk is now a black belt, whose ability lets him go Super Saiyan. Look, even little rocks float up in the air. That's hilarious. Ingus has fully embraced the darkness and became a ninja. Ark is now back to proper healing duties as a devout, an improved white mage who has cat ears. Sure, why not? And Refia... yeah, Refia's still a Dragoon. After the Ancient Maze, I reach the Crystal Tower, which unlocks some side stuff through Mognet. But, annoyingly, that means I now have to travel all the way back through the Ancient Maze to reach my airship. Oh my god, it's so freaking tedious. I even tried teleporting, but it just puts me back in front of the Crystal Tower. So, Princess Sarah's pendant broke. Yeah, we took a break from saving the world from an evil wizard to help the princess with busted jewelry. Only a special blacksmith can fix it, and after scouring the countryside, we find her in Saronia. She fixes the pendant and asks us to keep an eye out for a rare metal called orichalcum. And wouldn't you know it, Sid needs us to get rid of a monster in his basement, and it pooped the stuff out when we killed it. And just like that, we now have the ultimate weapon. Is it weird that I expected it to be more convoluted? The final Mognet quest unlocks a secret chamber holding the Iron Giant boss. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's one of those optional bosses that require you to be way over leveled to beat, or in this case, just survive one damn round against. So if I grind enough to be able to defeat the Iron Giant, then I'll pretty much stomp the final boss no problem. Pfft, that's no fun. But I did it anyway, with a full team of Onion Knights, after grinding to level 95. Shut up, I do so have a life. And I still had a hell of a time beating the damn thing. I ended up resorting to bullshit tactics like having everyone in the back row and double fisting shields to reduce the damage taken, and then slowly pelting him with magic spells and items. What can I say? I'm a sucker for achievements. And while leveling up, I maxed out the Thief, Black Belt, Ranger, Bard, Devout, Geomancer, Dragoon, Red Mage, Ninja, Dark Knight, and Viking, each earning me a sweet new weapon from the Master Blacksmith. And a card, which does nothing. Beating the Iron Giant got me one too. Oh yeah, it was worth it. At least we get a short scene after defeating it. Yeah, I sure as hell hope you got stronger after spending 12 plus hours grinding my ass off. See this gray hair? Yeah, pretty sure it wasn't there when I started playing this game. Well, now that we finally have that out of the way, we might as well finish what we started and climb the Crystal Tower. At the top of the tower is a mirror that traps the heroes. All of that effort, only to be stopped by a mirror. To break the curse, 5 souls that are pure of heart have to be summoned. So the spirits of Doga and Une set out to retrieve them. Coincidentally, they're all people who've joined us on our quest. Princess Sarah, Sid, Alice, Desh, who's apparently alive even though he jumped in lava, and finally, the pedophiles. That doesn't even make sense. They never helped us in a battle. Why not Arya? She fought with us. Oh yeah, she died. Well, that's embarrassing. What's even weirder is that there's 4 of them, but only one ends up going. You know what would have made more sense? Having it be 4 souls to break the curse instead of 5. Everything else has been in 4s. 4 crystals, 4 heroes, 4 fangs. I'm sorry, but this is gonna bug the hell out of me. Anyway, with the power of love, or whatever, the curse is broken. And now we have a cheerleading squad with us as we go beat the snot out of Zonde, who doesn't even last a single round because we're 40 levels above where we should be. Starting to regret that decision. It's too late, however, as Zonde has already summoned the Void, which we have no choice but to lose to. I'm okay with the impossible battle in this case, though, because at least the damage dealt to us is ridiculous enough for me to realize what's going on before getting angry. So now we're in the world of darkness, where we absolutely spank 4 more bosses, defending 4 more crystals, which contain the original 4 warriors of darkness that saved the world from the light. Again, wish I was playing that game. Talking to them explains that the Void is some kind of being that is neither light nor darkness, and wants to consume all and bring about darkness? Yeah, the Void has nothing to do with darkness, and wants to engulf the darkness, but is still referred to as the darkness. At any rate, the Warriors of Darkness join our heroes, and kamikaze into the Void to weaken it, giving us the go-ahead to kick its ass. Wait, that wasn't overdramatic at all. Oh, what a jip. The story wraps up in a long scene of everyone returning home. Laughs were had, tears were shed, babies were made, limits of sanity were tested. But overall, I had fun. Coming off the back of Final Fantasy II's Rebellion story, it seems like Square was keen on going back to a more mystical and fantastic journey for 3's story. It's like they were trying to fine-tune and perfect what they had done in the first game, and looking at the story that way makes it a bit more interesting in my eyes. Still a bit too generic though, but hey, at least they didn't continue on with Final Fantasy II's broken-ass leveling mechanic. After all is said and done, Final Fantasy III is not a bad game really. For its time, it was innovative and exciting. The jobs are a lot of fun to play with, and the story gives a sense of adventure. Problem is, its time was 1990, not 2006. By the time the rest of the world finally got to play it, Square was already trying to break away from typical RPG tropes. And there were dozens of other RPGs out there more worth our time. Don't get me wrong, as a fan of Final Fantasy, I'm grateful for being able to finally play it, but I don't think I'm ever going to be picking it up again. So let's just stick this one in the vault and carry on. It's only going to start getting more epic from here.